a lot of games out there that have you play as the hero who infiltrates a villain's castle. This usually involves defeating minions, avoiding traps, and eventually slaying the villain, as well as possibly rescuing a princess. But what if you were the master of the castle, the one who laid the deadly traps to get rid of those pesky intruders, and the princess and the hero slayer were one and the same? Trapt is a game for the PS2 by Tecmo, and the fourth game in their Deception series. The story begins with the protagonist, Princess Allura, mourning her dead mother. And already, we can quite easily see missing environment textures in the very first cutscene. Well, we're off to an interesting start, aren't we? Then her father, the king, gets murdered right in front of her, and her evil stepmother blames her for it on account of the fiend's mark on Allura's arm. So the princess escapes to a manor in the woods, where it turns out that she's partially possessed by a demon known as the Fiend. Because of this, she's given the power to set demonic traps, which she uses to eliminate her pursuers in a variety of gruesome ways. There are 3 variations of traps that correspond with the triangle, square, and X buttons on the PS2 controller. Each trap has their own attributes, such as holding them in place or setting them on fire. Damaging enemies with traps will earn you Warl, the currency in the game, and Arc, which is pretty much just a point counter. The more combos you perform, the more money you earn and the higher your score becomes. Warl can be used to create new traps, and unlock additional rooms for you to lead your victims into. Different rooms will have different room devices as well, which are unique ways to damage your enemies. Enemies have their own attributes too, such as movement speed and weight, so you'll have to plan your strategy accordingly. Just be careful that you don't accidentally step into the path of one of your own traps. I'm not gonna lie, it's actually very satisfying to watch people get crushed, impaled, and sliced up with all the traps and devices at your disposal. Even though things get kind of repetitive after a while, I still enjoyed seeing a well-executed combo, especially if it was the killing blow on a particularly annoying enemy. I don't know what that says about me as a person or my personality, but I know I'm not the only one who enjoyed the gameplay a lot. But for as fun as it is to brutalize your foes with all these traps, the rest of the game is rough, to say the least. First of all, there's the camera. It feels slow, heavy, and awkward to maneuver, and the default position always seems to be in the least convenient place. And seeing as how you want to keep your eyes on your enemies as much as you can, the bad camera is one of the most frustrating aspects gameplay-wise. I already pointed out how there's missing textures in the first few minutes of the game, but there's more where that came from. Missing textures in the environment are everywhere, both in cutscenes and during gameplay. You don't even need to look for them very hard either. There's just huge chunks of void where textures should obviously be. I guess this is because you have access to so many rooms that you can travel to without a loading screen between them, which makes things get a little glitchy. And then these same glitchy set pieces are used as backdrops during cutscenes, hence why they're still present even there. I don't know why then the developers didn't just use pre-rendered versions of these sets so that the cutscenes at least don't have obviously missing textures. I'm not a game development expert by any means, so I could very well be wrong about this. But it seems like that could have been an easy solution to the texture issues when it at least came to the cutscenes. Remember how I said the heroine's name was Allura? Well, it's actually not. The Japanese audio clearly says her name is Alicia, or Alicia.
Alicia-sama. Alicia-sama.
But for some reason, the subtitles say Allura. It makes me wonder if there was supposed to be an English dub of the game that changed her name to Allura, but was cut fairly late into production, and the team didn't have enough time to change the subtitles. And speaking of subtitles, I noticed several typos throughout. You'd almost think the game was localized by Natsume with all these flubs. The story can be described in one word: uninteresting. The characters are all bland as hell, and I didn't give a crap about any of the main characters or the named enemies that the game tries to make you feel bad for killing. It's mentioned a few times that the kingdom fell into ruin after the queen died, so the villagers that pursue you seem to be there to give the impression that these are just desperate people trying to make their lives better. But we never actually see, or even told just how the kingdom deteriorated, so you aren't really given any real reason to sympathize with them. If anything, it makes them seem stupid that these inexperienced peasants are going after a person that destroyed armies of heavily armed soldiers and powerful mages. Even when the narrative tries to give us complex or sympathetic characters, they're just so damn dull that you still won't give a crap. Not even the bizarre costume choices can make up for a lack of interesting characterization. Even the protagonist, who could be an interesting take on the damsel in distress archetype, is as one-dimensional as the rest of the cast. The cover art and promotional images make her look a lot more interesting than she really is. Also, this might be petty of me to say, but the screams she makes when she's hurt are pure audio torture. Ugh! It's like a razor blade scraping against my eardrums. Though I guess it gives you good incentive not to get damaged. Oh, and there are side story levels you can play in between the main story, but they're really just bonus levels you can play to earn more Warl. And there's not even any voice acting for the dialogue, which makes me think that this was just slapped on last minute for more content. Then they called them side stories to make you think they're more interesting than they actually are. I know that most of my review consists of all the problems I had with the game, which sounds like I didn't really enjoy it. But honestly, I did have fun with the gameplay, even with the bad camera and lackluster, well, everything else. So if you simply want a game that allows you to commit a variety of carnage against NPCs, then Trapt should keep you satisfied. Thanks so much for watching! If you enjoyed the video, be sure to click like, and subscribe if you want to see more.